If you were chased by 4 crazy frat boys somewhere in the wilderness of Italy and the only tools you have is climbing gear, years of experience, and a steep cliff that either will cause your demise or helps you stay out of reach, what would you do? Well, in this video we will figure it out and attempt to beat the ledge in the Ledge 2022. In the Ledge 2022, the two friends Sophie and Kelly plan to ascend a steep mountain cliff way up in Italian mountains. They arrive at a beautiful remote mountain lodge, plan for a good night of sleep, but are surprised by 4 monkeys destroying the peace of this wonderful place. There is not much to add here, to be honest, other than perhaps stating that these boys are generic idiots, quite literally. However, one in particular, this aggressive dude right here, seems to be more than just a straight up jerk. This guy shows signs of serious mental pathologies. He is aggressive, vulgar, and doesn't seem to give a flying F even about his friends. Which makes us wonder, why have a guy like this as one of your friends anyway? I mean, your friends tell a lot about of who you are, and this guy speaks volumes. So, one thing leads to the next, and that's right, he knocks on our character's door, tries to get them to join their party tonight, and eventually baits them with a little bit of green. Now the bait works because our girls are from California, and we end up at a campfire where women meet men, drink a bunch of liquor, and smoke a little bit of pot. Now let's just remind ourselves, please, that our girl's plan is to ascend a deadly cliff the morning after. I don't think booze and weed is the way to spend your night before with. That just seems irresponsible to me and not something experienced mountain climbers would actually do. Maybe I'm wrong. But that's not even the main issue here. Well, the main issue is, how do I put it? Well, the girls join, Kelly then leaves because one dude is sketchy, Sophie stays because drunk, dude fills up her cup even more, other dudes don't intervene, Sophie goes to pee, and sketchy dude follows her to force himself on her. Yeah, that is exactly what happens. It's very creative, I know, but luckily, it is not over yet. Nope. So after he tried to force himself upon her, the others come for help and hold him back. Sophie then runs away, and the 4 men literally all at the same time chase her, screaming her name. That is a very strange thing to do. I mean, one dude just tried to, and 3 other guys stopped him from doing so, and now they believe it is a good idea to chase her, scream her name, and say,
Alright, we just gotta find her and talk to her, okay?
we just want to talk? How on earth is that the right thing to say right now? Who would want to talk right now? This girl just low-key escaped a lifelong trauma. That is just ridiculous and happens when you write brain-dead characters, in my opinion. Or perhaps that is the blueprint for male characters in new movies. I don't know. Anyway, it gets even better. Once they catch up to her, one guy literally grabs her like a freak who was one of the same guys who just helped her escape. Why the hell would you grab her like that? It looks like you're either giving her a chiropractic session or you're about to snap her back. It's not a very calming move in my opinion. How did you expect she would react? Find comfort in your arms? Okay, she bites his hand and escapes a second time, only to find herself stuck in front of a steep cliff. Game over. Or is it? Heck yeah it is, because the former rescuer, whose hand she has bitten, seeks revenge by sucker punching that poor girl in her jaw. Can you believe that? Jesus, man, it's kind of funny. I don't know who writes stuff like this. Now Sophie flies into the abyss, lands flat on her back, and although still alive, she is probably a handicapped person from here on out. So, the one initial perpetrator and the 3 former rescuer, now turned conspirators, freak out, grab a rock nearby, and smash her skull. Then they pass the rock like a native peace pipe and double tap that poor woman as if she were to come back to life. Jesus Christ. Now that is just so wrong and insane that it's just kind of ridiculous. I mean, if they had smoked ice instead of pot before, it would be kind of believable. But this is, it's just kind of weird to watch, isn't it? There's a little disconnect here, just a slight one, but maybe that's just me. Now while this murder happens, Kelly wakes up and hears the screaming of her friend. She ventures into the forest, eventually takes out the camera, and films them just a moment they dispose of Sophie's body. Now what do you think happens next? A. Kelly is shaken and breaks into tears, not being able to grasp what just happened. Or B. Kelly is shaken, breaks into tears, and does the only right thing: escape to the lodge, grab her things, and flee without making any noise. Or C. She screams, draws all the attention to her, and is chased by 4 vicious killers that just killed her friend in front of her eyes. Well, of course it is C, my friends. How else would anybody react under those circumstances? Anybody would scream and wave with their arms to indicate where they are. In fact, I am surprised that she didn't light up a lighter or use the flashlight of her cell phone to show them where she was. That's what I would do. Well, anyway, she obviously, now being chased, must escape to the lodge. She only barely arrives there, only barely is able to grab her backpack before she's caught, and just barely makes it to the cliff where she's sort of able to stay out of reach for now. Now one of the guys tries to chase her up the wall as well, achieves that almost multiple times, but is eventually, very satisfyingly, pushed into his death. Not death, actually, because even though he landed as badly as Sophie before, he just broke his femur, which is kind of weird because he landed on his back, but you know, whatever. The plot pretty much starts right here. Kelly is stuck, and the problems are a bunch of killers waiting for her down there, a very uncomfortable cliff on which she is stuck, and of course the weather and limited provisions that she has access to. Now let us establish the circumstances and then try to find out what she can do to escape. First of all, being chased by murderers, you probably don't want to corner yourself and climb up a wall from where you can't get off anymore. That's a pretty dumb mistake if I'm being honest here. You see, there is this cliff to climb up, but there is also an easy hike up as well. Kelly knew about this. In fact, every character here knew about this because they joked about it during the campfire scene. The girls basically made fun of the guys because the girls wanted to climb up and the guys just wanted to go for an easy hike. You know, bottom line is everybody knew that there is multiple ways to get up there, right? So I am not sure what she had expected here. I mean, they are literally multiple characters. One of them could just watch her from the ground, and the other could literally just walk up to the plateau, and there is no way that she could ever escape. So this move alone was the most terrible choice she could have made, even though she knew exactly how horrible of a choice it was. It would have been much better to just run. At least that way she would have had a chance to escape. But, you know, for what it's worth, let's go with the movie and see where we end up. So, of the 4 characters, one is basically taken out and brought back to the cabin by his friends, right? The guy who broke his femur a second ago. So 3 villains are left to beat. As she is struggling on the cliff, the 3 dudes are casually walking up the incline and pretty much arrive on top just a few minutes later, which is also kind of ridiculous. Around the same time, Kelly approaches the infamous ledge of the cliff, an overhanging portion of the cliff and last challenge before making it to the top. Now, overhang boulders are notorious for their difficulty and require lots of finger strength, coordination, and willpower. But even if Kelly made it up, right, there are 3 guys waiting, wanting to push her down like they did to Sophie. So what now? Exactly, there is literally no way out. She will either freeze to death, starve to death, fall to death, or is somehow wiped out by one of the men above. You see, Kelly has filmed the murderers of her friend before, so the goal of the guys right now is to get the camera and destroy the evidence. The easiest way for them to achieve that is literally to just wait. Just camp above, perhaps have one of them camp at the bottom, and there is no way this woman will be able to escape. So let me state that at this point there is no way to beat these guys, unless they blunder. Which, as just explained, is impossible because they could literally do nothing and still win. But this, my friends, is a movie. And a movie in which characters do nothing is boring. So that is not what is happening. Instead, they try to convince her to attach the camera to a rope they drop down. That is the first chance, in my opinion, for Kelly to maybe turn the table. I would try to just pull the rope down as hard as possible. because maybe you can pull one of them into death, which would be a huge win, right? 2 out of 4 left. Maybe you're able to sort of steal the rope, because if you pull unexpectedly and quick, perhaps they're too slow to react, in which case you now got a rope. Congratulations. Meaning perhaps you could even find a way back down now. You see, climbing up is not the same as climbing downwards. That is why people who boulder literally train falling techniques. Also, dynamic movements, which are basically special movements using momentum to reach certain parts of a wall or cliff, are inevitable on this cliff. But using dynamic movements downwards is a pretty certain death sentence. So it is very important to understand that her only way out is upward, unless she can get the gear to climb down safely, of course. Now, the moment she misses the chance to secure the rope is the moment she must find another way on how to reach the top without being killed. Well, again, what would you do in this situation? Well, let me explain what I would attempt, but first, let's see what happens next in the movie. Being now stuck on a small protrusion just before the ledge, Sophie conveniently finds something looking like a tent. She uses her climbing clam to hang the tent safely from the bottom part of the ledge and is able to escape the cold winds during the upcoming night. Cool move, but rather unlikely. However, going for a good night of sleep while 3 murderers are just about 3 meters above you, I don't know, doesn't sound very intuitive to me. I would opt for quick turns of power naps to conserve my energy, but not give my enemies a big enough window to come and get me. I mean, even for them, reaching down to her is a significant maneuver and requires quite a bit of a setup. So if we can minimize the time we are sleeping, say 10 minutes at a time, we should be just about okay to not let them surprise us during our sleep. What the men do next though is also pretty creative. Instead of climbing down themselves, they fill a backpack with a heavy load, attach it to the wall, and then swing it down like a wrecking ball to catch her off guard. Gotta give a thumbs up for that. It almost works as well. She almost falls into her death, can just save her in the last minute, but loses her shelter in the process. So, without the shelter, she is more likely to freeze to death, of course, before starving, but as we know, that doesn't even matter because there is no way out of this other than overcoming the ledge and make it a top. She might be skilled enough to go for a maneuver like this, but the 3 maniacs above won't hesitate to push her into her death the moment her hands reach the edge. So really the only chance she has is either surprising them in their sleep or negotiate her way out of this misery. We know that they desperately want the SD card, so as long as we have this, we have a good leverage to negotiate. At first, I thought about swallowing the SD card, have them pull you up and keep you alive until you will kind of dispose of the card naturally, but they could just gut you basically, so that is a bad idea. Obviously, giving them the SD card and hope that they would just spare your life is also rather stupid. So there are only 2 chances here. Either have them leave and put the SD card atop and tell them to come back and pick it up after you have disappeared, or you lure them down to you and then kill them off one by one. The problem with the first idea is, how would you even go about this? I mean, it is risky and you can't really see what's happening above anyway, without overcoming the ledge first, of course. So they could just pretend to leave and then ambush you once you make it up. However, if you were to receive climbing gear, you could go for a safe ascent and just let go if they did go for an ambush. So perhaps you could negotiate for receiving certain items instead before anything else happens. Because you see, the time is not just working against you, but also against them. Every other hour spent is another hour for someone to come along and report the many dead bodies that literally cover this whole area because of those dudes. So we can safely assume they too were under immense pressure and might accept certain proposals even though they are stupid. The other option, having them come to you, take them out and then scavenge that person's equipment, is also a good idea. It would certainly lengthen your time left on this tiny piece of cliff, which as we now know, could turn the tables around as well. While Kelly is slowly entering the most critical phase in her survival, the trio above starts to F things up. You see, the good thing about 2 chickens and 1 snake is that the snake will eventually lose patience and kill the chickens. The two cowards that have left their friend force himself upon Sophie before try to convince him to drop this whole thing, contact the police, and try to convince them that all of this was just an accident. The psycho pretends to agree, but plots his next move already. Once one of the cowards goes for a midnight leak, he approaches from behind, pulls out his lovely hammer, and knocks him off the cliff with one single silent strike. That is why, my friends, you should not hang around egomaniacs. Seriously, I have no sympathy left for this dude, or any of them. Anyway, Kelly witnesses the murder and is able to use that info to her advantage. Obviously, the psycho lies to the only other guy left and has him drop down to Kelly to retrieve the SD card himself. As he goes for the exchange, Kelly tells him that he will be the next one to be killed, just like his friend about an hour ago. It causes him to lose trust, which, to be honest, he should have lost the moment his friend tried to... an innocent woman. But anyway, Kelly passes him the camera, he goes back up, and they figure out that the SD slot is empty. At that moment, a fight breaks out in which our last remaining coward is tied up, soaked in fuel, and then burned like a neglected Christmas tree. I can't show it to you because YouTube, but it sounded something like this. So, that was the end of the story for this guy. What happens next is, well, kind of a nice chess move from Kelly. The psycho now drops down himself, starts fighting with a woman standing on a 3x3 square feet platform, and basically loses the fight. He comes for another swing until Kelly tells him that she has hidden the SD card somewhere on this cliff, and that someday someone will find it and know the truth about what had happened today. She is almost killed but tricks him into a trap in the last second. He tells him the location of the SD card, knowing he would go for the bait immediately. However, the hideout she points out is not the place where the SD card is, but rather the hideout of a snake that she has spotted before. Kind of a genius move, not gonna lie. After being bitten, he comes back, is kicked in his balls, drops down like Frodo on Mount Doom, and eventually falls into his demise. But not before Kelly can trigger the SOS beacon on his watch. Hell yeah. She then climbs up as if this ledge was nothing to fear, and the rest, my friends, is history. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think. Hope you've enjoyed this one. Have a beautiful rest of your day and or night, and I'll catch you guys again soon. Peace out.